God bless you. All right, so quickly, back to the matter. Quickly. The great Safil is out of the studio. We did talk about transition. Safil, good morning to you. Welcome.
Yes,
no time. Look, we enter inside of the stuff. Many things there to talk about. Now, say one of the things where they could look, say this government talks, they could do X, Y, Z. During campaign, many people talk about many things where we hear about security, the things where this government, this present administration. That's why we go need to start to put eye on the incoming administration based on manifesto. Mm-hmm. But that one, when they come, before we face them, make we first face the outgoing government. They tell us during campaign, they talk about security. They talk about the economy. They talk about so many other things, education and all of that, infrastructure. But we want to check all of these areas one by one. Make we check all of these areas. Now, make we look, waiting what we call the legacies of President Muhammadu Buhari administration in infrastructure, for instance. Make we start from infrastructure, because many people tell you, say, yes, do well for infrastructure. Yeah. Yesterday, of course, we hear about the commissioning, actually day before yesterday, the commissioning of about 7 major, or they call them legacy projects. Federal Secretariat, for instance, of Oka, we say the Executive Business District for Oka South there, and then the second one, the Federal Secretariat for Gusau for Zamfara State, and then the third one, the Federal Secretariat for Yenagua for Bayelsa State, and then many other things. The second Niger Bridge, where we say that you don't start since, but we guys give them credit as something we finish for in tenure. But is that enough? Please, everything when he achieve, Safil, people they clap on for him. But how about the things when him promise XYZ in the areas of infrastructure, waiting he don't deliver versus waiting him promise? If you weigh them, how you go assess them? Infrastructure before we move to other area.
You know something, before we go on to discuss the details, it's also important to know that what you see as government, when you get in, it's a different thing. So as a candidate, when you're looking at government, that's one scenario. When you get into government, what you see inside government is a different thing altogether. So for you to be able to merge your expectation with reality, it's a big struggle. And it's like that all over the world. Because as a candidate, you don't have access to certain information.
Before?
Yes. Before you get in. Now, when you get in, you now see a lot more things that you must reconcile. So, always, that is a problem for candidates that have been voted into government. Therefore, but when we are judging people, we need to exercise some restraints.
I like what you talk.
Yes. You need to exercise some restraint.
Because we know their shoes.
We not did their shoes. We not did government shoe. If you take Obama, for instance, they call him a starry-eyed president. He had a lot of dreams for his country. And that man meant well for America. But if you read his book, when he got in, it was a different thing altogether. Apart from what he saw, he also had to face the resistance of the Republican Party. So it is, although here we don't have that kind of scenario where you have opposition, irrespective of what you say, they will, when you say go west, they go south. When you say go south, they go north. We don't have that here. So if we judge Buhari, we need to look at what was on ground when he came and what is he leaving behind. And one of the newspapers I have a lot of respect for is Premium Times.
Yes.
And I have a lot of respect for them because they will always tell you the way it is. So when a story is running, I go to Premium Times to check what they are saying. And I will always take their version of the story. Now, look at on infrastructure.
Yes.
Look at what that newspaper said. As with legislative reform, Nigeria is also seeing under President Buhari's watch the biggest and most ambitious federal infrastructure program since Nigeria's independence. That's what that newspaper said. The biggest and most ambitious federal infrastructure program since Nigeria's independence. Now, coming from a newspaper that is very critical of this administration, I take that as a commendation. Now, they went ahead to list what they were talking about, from rail to roads to all kinds of stuff. What could be the problem when you are judging an administration? Two things. One, when social factors overwhelm perception. That's one.
Social factors.
Social factors.
Something like say loud pass.
Loud pass. Economic realities. So it's like a singer who knows how to sing very well, but the lyrics are bad. You will just write the person off. But you see in a situation where somebody who sings very well gets a lyricist who writes very nice lyrics. And so you see that person just shoot up. So that is one. Another thing is, you may have an ambitious project, but how are you managing the project in terms of cost? So if I do 1 kilometer of road or 1 kilometer of a bridge, what is the comparable cost in other similar situation?
Interesting.
I have told you here that the last time I traveled to my state was in 2019. Before then, I saw the state of the road. Then in 2019, when I traveled, I got home looking like a Fulani man in the desert. And I couldn't allow my brother's children to hug me because I was so dirty.
I can imagine.
And I told you also that on the road, sometimes you don't know which one is left lane or right lane, because at every point you move from one place to the other.
Yes, sir.
So what that means is that this administration has not even been able to tell its own stories very well. Because there is also a bifurcation between what government has achieved and what government is able to convince the people that it has achieved. There's a big river there. So that is where the Minister of Information comes in. Has the Minister of Information have they done well enough to tell Nigerians that ministry? Because I see the ministry being more engaged in political debates, combative encounters with critics, rather than selling its own agenda or what it has achieved under its own agenda. And that's a problem.
I wish we can go ministry by ministry.
And we can go ministry by ministry.
Because as you talk now, I say make I even move in time. We get our line of thought, and we'll come back because we get a few more minutes to talk. But then ministry by ministry, Ministry of Information, just like you pointed out, I don't know if they really perform optimally.
Suboptimally.
Yes. On a scale of 1 to 10.
Probably 4, 3. Yes, and I say that with a sense of responsibility. The Ministry of Information is not a public relation office per se. It is meant to tell, in public relations, sometimes you do spinning.
Yes.
You do a kind of, and that's part of government. Spinning. It's part of government. It's not about engaging the opposition or engaging enemies of government, even though that is part of it. But what is the greater part? What is the core mandate of the ministry? It is to convey what the government is doing to the people.
Interesting.
This is what we are doing. And do it convincingly. Because you can also do it and not do it convincingly.
But there's been this talk, for instead of the Ministry of Information, there's been the people, popular opinion, especially for social media, which is why people need to take them in with a grain of salt. But since we did on this talk, we could talk about it. The ministry did more, according to many people, especially critics for social media, they do more of propaganda than actually communicating with the people.
Yes.
What do you feel about that?
I completely agree.
Okay.
Because if you look at Lai Mohammed, he's a brilliant person.
Yes.
I saw what he did as a communication person before APC came to power. He gave PDP a run for his money. Whatever PDP puts out, this guy will come up with something really, really tough and throw it out there and counter them. That is how APC managed to garner the confidence of people. At least these guys are really coming with a change. So he, as opposition spokesperson, I will give him 100%.
He did well as opposition spokesperson. Yes. Actually, a lot of people followed him there.
Yes. Now, but when he came into office, when APC came into office, he did not change that garment. He continued to wear that same garment.
Almost like he was still an opposition. Even when he...
Exactly. You are now in government. You can't be talking as if you are in opposition.
You are still combating.
And you are still combative. You are still throwing things out there. You are still quarreling with here and there. No, that is no longer your function. So as you move into government, you remove that government and put the government of, I'm here to convince you that what we said, we live by it. What we said we are going to do, we will do it.
We're doing it. All right, interesting. Because of time, make we go aviation. Now, we will come back to the president himself. But make we touch one or two of these ministries. Now, aviation, because we don't hear about national carrier, Nigeria Air, many things. Recently, crisis in the aviation industries, I feel. How well have they done? We don't see cases where people go on travel, they go see airports or fan shut down, or workers at the airport are striking, are protesting, and businesses, people go stand still until they resolve the mess. What did really happen? How far?
If you see the industry, you can judge. I'm a frequent flyer. I used to say that anywhere there's no airport, I'm not going there. Really. Back then, we will buy a ticket for months. Just keep the ticket there, so that when you want to fly, you fly. So it was that easy, right? But for a while now, that industry has been held down by a lot of things. One of which is the foreign exchange thing. Okay, now you have airlines that are flying in. You have international airlines, and they get their money in naira. They need to convert their money into dollars to repatriate. They are not able to do so. And so there's a crisis. And as a result of that, in order to mitigate their loss, their currency exchange loss, they increase fares. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Now, that is on one side. On the other side, how many airlines did we have like 20 years ago? How many airlines do we have now? And what is their status? At some point, government had to take over certain airlines. I remember, what's that airline now owned by the Hebrews? It was taken over. I think Arik too was also taken over. Amcon was taking over this airline because they could not function properly. And one of the reasons they could not function properly was the cost of doing business. So you ask yourself, what did government do to bring down the cost of doing business? One of the biggest problems they had was the cost of fuel, aviation fuel.
Yes.
And the reason is simple. Just like petrol, we're also importing aviation fuel. So in 8 years, this government did nothing at all to address that issue. Till today, we are still importing.
So infrastructure, you go. So infrastructure, yes, you will score the government.
You score the government, right? Even in the repositioning of certain airports. But I call that decorating the coffin. Person in the inside don't die. If you do new, and there were a number of new wrong ways. For instance, the Abuja wrong way was done, and a couple of other wrong ways were done that had not been done for years. You see it in that report. They were all done. But all these are now silent. They are silent because the people, the operators, are under a lot of pressure to make profit.
All right. Now, aviation, we don't touch on one thing a lot of people they talk about. Yeah, infrastructure, you do well. Aviation, many ministries. But how about security, Safil? We will come to energy and the rest of them. But security, in that area of security, talk about many people believe say handle the headsman crisis well. Talk about the IPOP situation. Nnamdi Kanu court don't say release him. And then some people even believe saying that because of say they don't manage some of this thing well, that's why people like Nnamdi Kanu even rise up in the first place.
That's correct.
People like Sunday Igboho came out in the first place. They even as they come out, how were they even managed? That's another thing. So the chain of issues in that area of security, some people believe say maybe the president should have done better. What do you feel about that one?
I think so as well. But let's also give some credit to the government.
Yeah.
See, way back in 20-something, I'm trying to remember when now, when we started talking about Islamic jihadists and all that.
Yes.
I told a friend that we are going to have a problem down the road. Though. If this thing that I am seeing, Nigeria is becoming associated with jihadists, if we allow it to continue, it will get to a point where it will become unmanageable. Because those guys are themselves unmanageable. They
don't recognize government.
You cannot tell what they want.
Yes.
And when a people, it's just like what IPOB is doing right now. It's not setting anymore what they want because they are doing what we call self-deprecation. So government has done well in some areas, pushing back as opposed to what it was in 2015. But then things escalated. Now take the headsman situation. I think it's an embarrassment. It's a national embarrassment. At some point, this feeling that, maybe they are your people became dominant. But look at where this thing was pinching. It was pinching on our food security. Take Benue, for instance. Benue became a theater of war between farmers and headsmen. And for God's sake, you cannot come to my community and begin to tell me where I should farm or where I should not farm. That's my ancestral land. You cannot do that. So even though you have a right of way as a citizen of Nigeria to conduct your business anywhere in Nigeria, you must also abide by the rules and regulations governing communities. And I say this, when I look back in my village, in the 70s, 80s, we had herdsmen in the village. Not problem at all. No raping, no fighting, nothing.
Not be today headsmen start. Then they.
So what happened?
Yes.
What happened
how did they
is because militarized.
Yeah.
And how come if I ask you today, since we've been having this problem, how many headsmen do you know
have been
arrested, prosecuted, and I want to see the record. I want to see the record.
Strong question there.
And these things are not happening invisibly. It is daytime encounter with farmers, destroying farms, destroying produce, destroying all kinds of things. So why did we give that leeway to these people? That was not addressed. Now let's go on to the issue of bandits.
Yes, banditry. Yes.
When I was in the village, the only time I heard somebody was kidnapped, a very long time ago, and he was kidnapped because they said he had hunchback and they wanted to use the hunchback for some kind of stuff. And it didn't make sense to me because I was a child then. So banditry, kidnapping was something that you didn't see on the pages of newspapers every day, right?
Yes.
And then when you even see it, it's usually connected with politics, business, disagreement, and all that. So it was also connected with profiling. You profile somebody, you know that person has money, and you want to kidnap him for money. Now, how did we go from that to just picking a bus of people, where you have vulcanizers, you have akara sellers, you have students, you have all kinds of people, and then you just say, I want 15 million on each head. How did we get to that? Then you should also ask yourself the question again: how many kidnappers have been arrested
and
prosecuted
for that
and convicted? How many?
I mean, there's the case of the popular Evans.
That's the most popular.
Waiting till today. I mean, that case has lingered.
It's still there.
It's lingered for too long.
Still there.
If it's just like what you talked earlier on about prisoners, living prisoners.
Right.
Why is the judgment taking so long?
Because
now resources, then they expend to keep them in the custody of the government. Now resources.
Now let us also go to another point. In connection with security.
Yes.
They came up with NIN. Why?
Wow.
Because they want to connect your telephone to you as an individual.
Yes.
So, and it's done all over the world. So if you are using your phone to commit a crime,
you will be tracked and traced.
You'll be tracked and traced, and you will be caught.
So, exactly.
So now, they stampeded Nigerians into getting NIN. It was madness to get NIN. NIN, and everybody got NIN. Today, these kidnappers are using telephones
to call for ransom.
And no matter where you are in the world, once you have a phone,
you can be traced.
Whether you use it to make a call or not, it tells the authorities where you are to a certain number of meters. So they are as close to you as you may not imagine. That is why all over the world, when they track criminals, they use their phone. So what happened? How many criminals, how many of these kidnappers have we tracked? Because if you go to IGP office now, they will tell you, oh, you want to track the person that stole your phone, bring so. I will help you to track. Who is interested in the man that stole the phone, as opposed to the man who's extorting millions from people?
Make we hold that thought there. Make we quickly collect the news. 2 seconds. When they come back, this talk we just did start. On the other side of 9 o'clock, Safi will still here. We'll touch on some other areas. Too many areas to touch, but we'll see how much we go fit do before the time go run out. No touch on radio. We'll come back.
Abuja. Wake up. Reach out. Speak up. Speak out. You are the voice of a new generation. And this is your station. Talk Radio 93.7 Citizen FM.
This is 93.7 Citizen FM. Abuja.
Check your time. 9 o'clock. Don't stand attention for the Agogo this morning.
Time for news on the hour.
All the things and things where they shop around the world, especially for Nigeria, we want cut and sharp drop for your domot this morning on top of Citizen FM 93.7 for Abuja. The Code of Conduct Bureau, where be CCB, they don't come outside and they talk, say, make the president-elect, where be Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, plus including him vice president-elect, where be Kashim Shettima. Man, all the state governors, where they don't elect, all the state governor-elect, all of them, make them come outside, make them come outside and declare the things and things where we say be their property, their assets, but they declare them before they go swear them in or before the inauguration on May 29. The special assistant to the CCB chairman now will be Mustafa Musa, and come outside because they talk this one during by the time when he follow new to people they fry mouth for inside of Abuja. When he can talk, say the asset declaration form now they've been done share to all the incoming and re-elected public officials outside of the country. Instead, when they talk, say the CCB now they already give asset declaration form to all all the newly elected and re-elected public officers for inside of Nigeria. And they talk say anybody when they be say then default to say consequence go deal, say then go look them in a way when they be say themselves they no go too day happy. So make them declare their asset. It's still on the talk say asset declaration are part of the things that when it be say you supposed to do before you go occupy any public office. And then still for the to read this morning now, the President Muhammadu Buhari don't come outside now come tell all the ministers where they work for instead of in cabinet, make them no shake anything, make them sit down tight for their chair, they do their work titi tororo. May 29 before they go talk say they one pack them go come up body. When President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu, when they don't swear them in, plus as the successor at that time, they go fit hang their boot to say, oh yeah, we don't finish. Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, and then come outside confirmed this particular matter based on 102 yesterday, will be Wednesday. According to Oga Mohammed, he said the president now don't give direction, a short and instruction when he give to all the offices them, make them continue the work. Not be said they say May 29 is coming, May 29 is coming. Make them continue to do their work and make them disregard fake news, according by Hein TikToker. On top of a good matter, we concern the sport now. Nigeria's Flying Eagle now, based on 102, they don't enter the round of 16 for the ongoing FIFA Under-20 World Cup for inside of Argentina after when it be said they wipe Italy 2-0 for inside of Group D match when it be said they play during by the time of yesterday night as the matter take the beat. Salim Fago Lawal's when he take a dive, in fact, the diving header, when he choke the ball inside of the net, plus including the one when it be said Jude Sunday, when it be said take finish and then give Nigeria the victory over Italy inside of the one when it be say the Digaram for Estadio Malvinas for inside of Argentina for there. The result now can let the Flying Eagles now and the Azzurri on top of the matter they can do 6 and 3 points respectively after 2 games apiece for inside of Group D. All the things upon things where they sub for inside of the country now we don't cut to shortly drop for the motor this morning on top of Citizen FM 93.7 for Abuja. The correct person where I did this one give me make a drop giving her name now Ade Rayo. Before me go come on body for the new story sharply this morning make a remember for you say now where did they advise Pekin we get to mama now there Pekin we no get mama they borrow idea from the name where my papa and my mama two of them sit down for round table collabo give me na Chukwebuka Eze making I get better money. Super Citizen at Sunrise still continue not a jump.
Citizen FM Abuja, now we be the voice of the people. Citizen FM Abuja, now we be the voice of the people. Citizen FM, Citizen FM. Make we join our hearts to build a nation of our dream. Citizen FM, Citizen FM. Your problem is my problem and my joy is your joy. Citizen FM, Citizen FM. Make we join our hearts to build a nation of our dream. Citizen FM, Citizen FM. Yeah. Your problem is my problem and my joy is your joy. Epa!